It's Halloween!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, I'm StenoTV. Welcome, stay for a bit, and click that subscribe button so you don't miss a single video. Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to the series finale of these Spooktober videos. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of what it was like growing up in a haunted house. Before we get into today's video, a little birdie told me that 41.9% of you are not subscribed. We are on a mission to 200 subscribers before the year ends. We're almost there, guys. We only need a few subscribers before we reach our yearly goal. Now hit that subscribe button if you haven't, guys, or if you're new around here, and tell your friends, your family, your dog. I was actually introduced to the paranormal side of things at a very, very young age, and it all happened in my grandparents' house. Now, my grandparents' house was built in the mid-70s, and the house wasn't always like that. Like, it wasn't always haunted, so to speak. I mean, based on the stories that my mom and my aunt used to tell us before, the house was pretty much like a normal house. But somewhere down the line, something made paranormal activity apparent in that house, and we just don't know what's the reason behind all of that. No one exactly knows when the exact time all those weird stuff started happening, but it was just like everyone knows there was weird stuff happening to the house. The earliest one that I know of that I may have experienced is when my mom was pregnant with me. So my mom was in her dressing room and praying the rosary. Now the setting of that is there's the dressing table and a mirror in front of my mom. Then behind her is a full body mirror. And on top of the dressing table, there is a small window there. There was a moment that she paused herself to look at the mirror. And when she looked at the mirror, she saw two red orbs, or two glowing eyes, that were staring at her from the window itself. Now, mind you, that window, when you jump out of that window, you would fall 2 stories down to the ground. There's nothing you could stand on there. It's just like a plain wall. So how was there red eyes? Now, my personal experiences in my grandparents' house, now that I'm born, involve a Filipino folklore staple called the duendes. Now, the duendes are small, bearded, mischievous beings that are usually found in the wilderness. Normally, the telltale sign for that is when there's like little mounds in the forest. I mean, some people call it nuno sa punso, which actually means in English, old man in the mound. But for some reason, I don't know how they ended up in my grandparents' garden. I'm not even sure how many they were, or if it was just like one singular duende. At a very young age, they like playing or toying with me, so to speak. But there were times before that I would play around my grandparents' garden, and I would just throw up. I would feel like this sort of dizziness and vertigo at the same time. But when we had myself checked by our pediatrician, she didn't find anything wrong with me. So why am I feeling those sort of things? My grandmother had to call someone that might have alternative methods. So there was this old lady that my grandmother had been calling for some time now. He is an albulario who performed these rituals to heal their patients or people. So she did this candle ritual on me, and we found out that, yeah, I had been played by duendes. I remember even just like walking around the block in the neighborhood. Before we even leave the house, my mom would always remind me to say tabi tabi po, or which means in English, excuse me, or pardon me, or I'm passing through, to alert duendes nearby that, you know, don't toy with me and just let me pass. I'm just passing. I don't mean any harm. Sort of things like that. My parents started to become afraid of letting us kids play outside. So my parents bought us a PS1. And that was their like plan to keep us inside. And since I was an energetic kid, I had to run my mind all the time. But actually keeping us inside didn't really solve that much problems. I remember as a very young person, every time I would walk around the first floor of my grandparents' house, especially the stairs area, because it's actually dark in that area, you would actually feel like sort of someone's been watching you, or like this burning gaze behind you. But when you turn around, there's no one there. It's not just me who's experienced that. Everyone in the household, even my dad, who doesn't really believe in this paranormal stuff, feels the same way, that every time he's walking in the living room or in the stairs going up to the second floor, he would feel someone's burning gaze, but there was no one there. Now, also, there was a time where my baby cousin used to stay with us. My dad's sister would drop off my cousin for us to babysit. There was actually 2 times that he saw a headless person in what we call a music room, because that's where my aunt used to practice music with her band. And because of that experience, my baby cousin didn't actually want to come back. My dad's sister said about, hey, so our son said, or my cousin said, that he saw a headless person in your house. We never saw any headless person, but my cousin did see one. And speaking of visitors, there's also another time where my younger brother's friend, whose first time in the house, he used to come to our house and play with us when Beyblade was a thing. When he was going down, I remember him commenting about like, who's that? And we were like, who's what? He was pointing out through the window out of the music room, and he said he saw a red man standing on the window peeking inside. We've never seen like a red man as well, so that's new to us. So there's 2 different people who saw different apparitions in that house. Personally, I never saw anything in that house, but for some strange reason, visitors would often see like apparitions. And also, this is probably one of the latest happenings in that house before we moved out. One of my grandma's helpers was pregnant with a child, and nobody knew that actually. And there was one night, one of my grandparents' helpers woke up to the sound of like, she described this as like scratching sounds and like wing flapping or something like that. And the second night came, and more of my grandmother's helpers heard the same things. So they reported it the next day. My grandmother called up her albulario friend once again, and said that there was a manananggal that came. There's a lot of weird stuff happening in my grandmother's house, but the scariest one I have ever actually experienced that actually made me believe that paranormal activity is indeed real, or paranormal stuff, or the paranormal world is actually real. It was that story that I actually told 2 videos ago. Near the end of that video, I told the story of how one of my grandmother's helpers got possessed. I remember the time that it happened. It was daytime. We were all in the second floor of that house, except for the helpers. They were in their own chilling spot in the kitchen. But one of our helpers came running up the stairs, hysterical, and she explained the situation that one of the helpers had been possessed. The helper that reported the situation actually was explaining that she was actually brandishing a knife, if I remember it correctly. And that made us all enter into a panic mode. I mean, as kids, of course, we didn't know what was happening really, but we were curious enough to go down with everyone. Since my dad was connected to the barangay back then, he called up the barangay for security help. So a squadron of barangay tanods and the head actually did come to our house. So when we went out to the kitchen, the tanods were trying to subdue her. A little girl, actually. I don't recall what her height exactly was. I think there were 4 or 5 barangay tanods who were having a hard time subduing her. I'm not even sure who did it, but I think it was the head of the barangay tanods, who gave the helper a massive punch that made the situation in their favor, that they were able to handcuff our possessed helper into a support beam with a drainage pipe running down. So she was handcuffed to that support beam for the priest to arrive at our house, which actually took quite some time. So the priest did eventually come to our house, and when the priest arrived, that was when us kids were actually escorted inside, and that's how the story ended for us. But after the events, we asked one of the other helpers, how did that helper got possessed? My grandparents had a mango tree in their garden before, and the helper that was with us, she said that the helper was cleaning that area around the mango tree, and she saw what seemed to be a man, and that's when things went sour. So yeah, thinking about it now, I think it's the scariest thing that I have ever experienced in my life, but I didn't understand it at that time because I'm just a little kid and I didn't know what the violence was about, or what I was seeing during that time. But anyway, this has actually been a weird one because I've never actually told this side of my childhood before to actually anyone. Actually, nobody knows this except for my family. If you did enjoy this video, find it useful or entertaining, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on that bell icon to get notified when I upload next. Spooktober has been a very fun series to make, and I hope you did all enjoy all 5 episodes of it. And yeah, I hope I see you guys in the future.